at the story of the day. South Africa is concerned about the loss of resources of the continent through illicit financial flows. And this is according to President Jacob Zuma. Speaking on Wednesday during the World Trade Union's Congress in Durban, President Zuma says the money that is lost through illicit flows could be used to develop infrastructure and provide basic services such as education and healthcare. The Joint African Union and UN Economic Commission for Africa's high-level panel on illicit financial flows from Africa estimates that illicit flows from the continent could be about $50 billion per annum. Central banks have been called to come on board to help monitor the outflows of funds from the countries and the continent. Zuma called on the international labour movement to add his voice or their voice to the call for action to be taken to arrest global challenges. And joining us via Skype is tax expert Etienne Retief, the chairperson of the National Tax and SARS Stakeholders Committees at SAIPA. Thanks so much, Etienne, for your time. Can you just give us a ballpark figure as to how much is South Africa, or rather South Africa's economy, losing through illicit cash outflows?
Well, I think one of the remember with this kind of transaction is that you can't really quantify it, because typically it's hidden wealth. People go out of their way to manipulate and create confusion and complexity to avoid the taxes and the exchange controls that come with it. It is indicated by research that was done that in the last 5 to 6 years that there's about a 25% increase over the last 5 years of wealth being held into places such as offshore tax havens. And it's estimated that about $7.6 trillion is being held currently in essentially tax-free haven areas, which makes up about 8% of the total world's asset wealth.
Yeah, but Etienne, I mean, this is obviously criminality at the highest level. And so why is it that we're not able to either confront this particular issue and bring those that are implicated to book?
Well, I think, first of all, let's understand what it actually involves. It's very difficult to bring to book without information. So we've had things such as the Panama Papers, we've had the Swiss leaks, we've had a number of things that have made it available and a little bit easier for us to understand where these funds are being hidden and who the true beneficial owners are. And that's why, for instance, in South Africa, we've introduced, starting from the 1st of October, a special voluntary disclosure program to allow people to normalize their illicit offshore funds that they've hidden for tax and exchange control purposes in the past, because we recognize how significant this is. But without knowing where and how people have hidden it, it's very difficult to take it or to kind of pull it back. And there is information sharing and a number of or I would say interventions being implemented by the OECD and various other countries to start fighting this very issue.
But Etienne, are you saying that the evidence is not glaring? We heard from Trade Federation COSATU saying there's no less than 600 billion just in South Africa's monopoly capital that is not being distributed, and that is why we're still having the issues, or social economic issues that we have.
Well, look, I think, first of all, how exactly we quantify that number is very difficult, because while people create complexity and secrecy to hide these funds, at the same time, it makes it difficult for us to know exactly what amount is essentially held this way or filtered off and doesn't make its way back to South Africa's economy. But I think one thing is for certain is that there is no doubt whatsoever that monies that is intended to flow into South Africa, which could be used for infrastructure, for social economic growth, those monies don't make it back into the South African economy. It's doing harm. Anyone who can see how we have a budget deficit, how we have to essentially our need for everything from national health to funding universities. All of these things are essentially part and parcel of the monies that are available. And yes, if people hold these funds or take these funds offshore and keep it outside of the South African economy, not just from an accessibility from a capital point, but also to tax the earnings and the capital growth on these, then yes, it is doing harm to our economy.
All right, Etienne, we're going to leave it there. Thanks indeed for your time. Of course, we're speaking to Etienne Retief, who is the chairperson of the National Tax and SARS Stakeholders Committee at SAIPA. And our